So, as you're watching the first round and you're seeing this young man, drop further and further completely out of the first round, what was your initial reaction to what was happening, at least, on that Thursday night?
Well, it'd be hard to not describe it as shock, right? Like we watched enough drafts to know how to have compassion for like the kid who's like the last one in the room, right? Like that's
Yeah,
never
Aaron
fun for me to
Rodgers, Lamar
watch.
Jackson, those they're dropping to the 30s or late 20s. Yeah.
It's never fun to watch that happen to a kid. It just feels very embarrassing. Like, these kids who are being left in this room didn't experience it, but those of us who aren't professional athletes may know what it's like to be the last one picked for dodgeball, the basketball, whatever sort of pickup game. This never happened to like the Lamar Jacksons of the world, the Shedeurs of the world, but just thinking about that sort of compassion on that level, just like, man, like what is going on? It just feels very confusing. I had a sense of dread, to be honest with you, Khaled, from the time Shedeur had those Giants cleats. I was like, that's not good. I
Oh,
don't feel like
tell me
teams like
more.
the
Yeah.
Giants want to be shown up in that way. And that's
Okay.
how I saw it. And I was like, I don't know if that was wise, but at the same time, I thought he was so talented that people would sort of be chomping at the bit to get him. And I was like, what is going on? That's just Thursday night, my reaction.
Yeah, I mean, watching the top 10, you're like, okay, the Giants, Abdul Carter, generational, maybe the next
Generational.
LT. Okay,
Right.
I get it. You're looking. I'm looking at the Browns. They basically pass on him twice because they trade down. They get Mason Graham. Then I'm thinking about my Raiders at pick six. I'm like, oh, it'd be nice. People were asking me who would you like before the draft. I was like, give me Genty or Sanders,
Come on.
or Hunter in like a dream scenario.
Of
Uh,
course.
but I get it. I'm like, okay, they don't want they signed Geno. They gave him some good money. They don't want to draft a quarterback first
Right.
over, or in the first round. Okay, and then other teams kind of show up. They're like the Saints at 9. The Giants trade back in. The Steelers. I'm like, these are teams that need a quarterback, especially the Saints. Now we know Derek Carr retired. Uh,
Exactly.
you know, and I think they probably read that in the tea leaves, and they end up drafting a quarterback. We'll get to him,
Right.
but the first round, I was like, okay, a lot of great quarterbacks are not drafted in the first round. You know,
Truth.
we have Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl winner, Russell Wilson, Super Bowl winner.
Right.
Guys that maybe fit the Sanders mold of like they don't have the perfect physical prototype that
For sure.
NFL teams are looking for. And then, but he just keeps dropping. So once we got past, I don't know, second, third round, where did your mind go watching this guy drop even further?
It really started to feel, I mean, we toss the word conspiracy around too often, but you know, this happens with regular jobs, right? Like if you are in a particular industry, it's not unheard of for, me to call the colleague across the way and be like, "Hey, I wouldn't pick this person if I were you." Just I've had some pretty bad experiences, and we're not supposed to talk poorly about people on our references, but sometimes that still happens where people just kind of say it without even saying it, and it really started to feel by this point that you're describing, it started to feel like, oh, this isn't just folks saying, oh, we don't need him. Because as you mentioned, teams that absolutely need a quarterback, like the Steelers had no quarterback at that point. And I was like, what are you doing? We saw the Saints eventually had the news of Derek Carr retiring, but it wasn't like Derek Carr was killing it for the Saints. I saw a lot of Saints fans rejoicing once
Yeah,
he announced his
absolutely.
retirement. So this is not someone who, oh, this is like the savior of our franchise either. Teams that really needed a quarterback, especially a quarterback of Shadeur's caliber, were just passing on him. And I said, wait, that doesn't make any sense. So this is what I started to think. I hate to use the word conspiracy because it's such a serious word that gets tossed around all the time now, but it just made you think what sort of conversation was happening to make everyone make the same decision in spite of their own interests.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you talk about a quarterback of Shadur's caliber. So I think one thing to clear up is, a college resume, big numbers doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get drafted early, right?
Of course.
Even the Unitas Award, people were throwing that around. People were using Gardner Minshew as a parallel, like he had similar numbers. Guys like that. the other guy, the really cool quarterback from Hawaii. I'm blanking on his name, but there's a
Yes.
long list of quarterbacks that put up big numbers, win awards, and then don't get drafted or don't get drafted early. But I think the key difference is everyone was telling us that Shedeur was going to get drafted early. You know,
And I heard Bomani Jones talk about this and saying that just because the way he was positioning it was like, just because, they were saying he was going to get drafted early didn't mean that those who've been paying attention to college football religiously believed he'd get drafted early. And that is an important distinction to make. But at the same time, I just it's really just it just feels like a setup then to have so much hype around it and for those of us who've been following what Deion's done with Colorado and all the energy, and if you want to use the word hype, we can use the word hype around the program. It just didn't seem to go along with the narrative at that point. It just felt so jarring because after all, we did just see Travis get picked at a high point, so it couldn't have all just been just flash and no substance. So you're like, yeah, Travis gets picked at a high number. He's the Heisman winner. So, but we've also seen Heisman winners not translate to NFL success. That's been a thing too. But at the same time, seeing Travis, you're like, oh, Travis and Shedeur are gonna get picked in that first ride. So not seeing that happen for Shedeur, and once again, just seeing him just drop and drop and drop. I remember being at like a baby shower on Saturday, and everyone was just watching it like, he still didn't get picked yet. Like it's just really completely confusing.
I was kind of obsessing over it. I'll be honest. Like
No doubt.
those 2 3 days. All right, Thursday, sure, first round, okay. Friday, second, third round, Dylan Gabriel gets picked, who, by all accounts, was I'm not trying to claim like I'm some mock draft expert, but I did a lot
No
of mock
doubt.
drafts for Just Blog Baby, which is the Raiders site on Fansided,
Hmm.
and so I was deep diving into all the mock drafts and the scouting reports and everything, and everyone was talking about Dylan Gabriel being too small for the position. Like,
Right.
okay, maybe he's Baker Mayfield, whatever it is, but from a like physical perspective, there was no reason for Shador to drop this far. I mean, he's
Yeah.
6'1", 6'2", which is about, it's not huge for a quarterback, but
No,
about
but it's
right.
good solid size.
Yeah, and he has all the physical tools, the arm, everything like that.